Hi everyone, today we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about interventions in eduCLIMBER. Our goals for today really are to understand how to access individual student information in eduCLIMBER about interventions, and then we're going to spend a little bit of time reviewing how to create a data wall and how to find and look at student forms. Currently, our reading teachers at the elementary levels are using the intervention feature in eduCLIMBER. The reason we are trying out this feature is there's lots of reasons. We want to be able to streamline record keeping for all students. All of the information about interventions can be kept in one place. Rather than trying to keep individual Google Docs or Google Sheets or even paper pencil forms, we can now house this information electronically in one place. There's some automatic reporting features in the intervention function that allow us to look at student level reports, and that reflects the basics of what intervention is being done, who's doing it and when, and how the student's doing on their progress monitoring measure. Also, this allows information about interventions to stay with the student. So teachers are able to see what was done in previous years as well as in the current year. There's a flag that appears when a student is in an intervention on a data wall that will indicate to a teacher very quickly that that student is in an intervention. This is particularly important as we consider students who might move around within our district, as we consider the moving of students from 5th grade up to 6th grade, or from really any grade level to another grade level. The ability to have this information in eduCLIMBER means that teachers don't have to hunt around in paper files or for other teachers in order to get their students' intervention information. And finally, when we get more and more data in there, we will actually be able to see, which interventions are having the most success and are most effective for kids. But that's a little bit down the road as we get more data in the system. So remember, to access eduCLIMBER, there's a website that's available on this screen, and our district number is 1252. Click Login with Google and make sure that you are using your Urbandale Schools email address. And first thing we're going to do is look at how to find and view intervention information for a student. So on the home page, the landing page, up at the top, highlighted in red here, you'll want to click on that Student tab. When you search for a student by typing in their name, you're going to pull up a student. If they are in an intervention, that information is going to show up in the middle of the screen right here. In this case, it's circled in red. So student information on the left, academic scores on the right, and intervention information is in the middle. So when you see a student is in an intervention, if it says active, that means that these are intervention a student is currently in which they're currently participating. The green bar in the middle, this could be green or red. It's color-coded based on the student's progress. So if it's green, that means they're on track to meet their progress monitoring goal. If it's red, they're not on track to meet their progress monitoring goal. ROI stands for rate of improvement, and eduCLIMBER calculates a rate of improvement based on the time the student is scheduled to be in an intervention and their progress monitoring scores. So the plan ROI refers to the rate of improvement that a current student is currently making. The goal ROI refers to a rate of improvement that the student would need to make based on the length of their intervention in order to meet their goal. So in this case, because the plan ROI is higher than the goal ROI, that means a student is on track. They're actually making more progress than they would need to make in order to meet that goal. Down here at the bottom is their latest score on their most recent progress monitoring assessment. The intervention information, more details, are found by clicking on this particular space. So if on a student's homepage you clicked in this particular space, you would get an option to either view the probe, which is the progress monitoring results, score lines, trend lines, baselines, etc., or the intervention, which shows you all of the students in that particular group. You also have the option to print a summary, and that's a printable version of the progress monitoring data and ROI information. So let's start with the probe. If I click on View Probe, it's going to give me a graph that looks like this. So at the top will be the student's name. Here's the title of the probe that's being used. It's the CBMR English Language Assessment. And then here's all the information about the student so far this year. On the left, that little box indicates their screening score. The vertical line is when the intervention started. The blue dots are the students' individual progress monitoring scores so far this year, and the blue line is their trend line. The green line is their goal line. Up here at the top, these little kind of orange colored circles, that's the student's accuracy percentage, and the red X's refer to the number of errors that the student made. And that information is all right down here in a table below the title of the graph. And then if you wanted information in a table form, there's a score table as well that shows the same information just in a table versus a graph. If you clicked on View Intervention, you would get a screen that looks like this, and it shows you all of the students that are in that particular group. So if I wanted to look in more detail at that, here's the student's name. This gives me some information, the plan history, about who is providing the intervention, the dates of the intervention, and what strategy is being used. In this case, it's the Jan Richardson RISE framework. Right below the plan history or plan information is the student's attendance. We are asking the reading teachers who are using this feature to take attendance. It doesn't have to be every day. Some teachers are waiting until the end of the week to put in attendance for the entire week. But the reason why we're tracking attendance is because we really want to see, or allows us to see, like, are we scheduling school events, or is there testing or other things that are interfering with our ability to provide that intervention every day for that student? If a student's attendance is above 80%, it will be green, indicating that, you know, they're on track. If it's below 80%, it's going to be red, indicating that we may not be that student may not be in the intervention enough for the intervention to have an impact. Over here on the right side is a bar to indicate, or a rectangle that shows if they are on track or not on track. So it could be red again or green. In this case, it's red, which means the student is not on track. If it was green, that would indicate that the student is on track. If I wanted to look at historical information, I would just want to go up to the top of where I, right underneath where it says interventions, right where I had active before, there's a little drop-down arrow that you can click historical. And that will change it back to, or show you all of the information regarding historical interventions that a student has already participated in and exited out of, or been removed from. Or end dated, I should say, not removed. So in this case, we are looking at a 4th grade student, but this particular student participated in a pilot last year as a 3rd grader. And so I'm looking at his information from last year's intervention. It showed that he was in a literacy intervention in 2018-19. He was not on track when the school year ended, and he actually had a negative ROI, rate of improvement. So this will become a handy tool as we get to be using this feature more and more and more and more. It will show teachers very quickly, they'll be able to access intervention information. So again, just wanted to run through briefly a data wall and how to access a data wall. We went through this prior to the school year starting. Now that we have data in from 2019-20, many of you have maybe already done this, but if you haven't, just kind of wanted to run through again how to do it and allow you to see your students' information. So up here, again on the landing page, there's the My Class tab. You're going to want to click on that. Once you click on that, there are several filters that you'll want to use. The first filter is the year that the students are actually rostered to you. So in this case, that is 2019-20. It will default to the current year. The user will be yourself. The course doesn't matter which one you pick. They should all be the same students, and you can leave period blank. The right side date drop-down menu allows you to select which years you'd like to see data for. So if I wanted to see this year's data, but also last year's data, I could use this drop-down and select 2019-20 and 2018-19, and that would allow me to see data from my students for last year. Once I fill in the filters, I click search, and it's going to take me to a screen that looks like this and shows me lots of graphs. Remember that this navigation bar up here allows you to see different subject areas. So right now it defaults to literacy, but if I wanted to view math, I would just click on the little chi-squared symbol right here, and it would be math. If I want to turn these graphical views into a data wall, I would click data wall, which is again circled here in red. One of the things that might be helpful to know for data walls is how to hide certain columns. So right now, eduCLIMBER has lots of advanced features that we're not yet using as we learn this new system. Some of those features include the ability to attach documents to student files, or print forms, or create comments, or tag them. And right now we just don't have a lot of those in. So it might be helpful to hide it just to give you a cleaner view. If you want to hide it, click on the arrow, columns, and it's under extras. And you can actually uncheck any box for a column that you do not want to see. If, however, you want to see if a student is in an intervention, make sure you keep this last one called INTV checked. And that way you'll be able to see which students are currently involved in an intervention with a reading teacher. Once I've completed that, my data wall looks a little bit cleaner because I've removed a lot of that white space. So again, the students' names are shown on the left, and all these different colored boxes shows all their different scores for a particular group of assessments. The assessments are up at the top. So in this case, I'm looking in this column right here at 2019-20 map language, the fall, 2019-20 fall map reading, 2018-19 CBMR English, and 2019-20 fall CBMR. So this view actually gives me 4 consecutive CBMR data points. If I'd like to sort and see, gosh, who are my lowest students on the most recent assessment? All I have to do is under the assessment by the window, there's a little drop-down menu, and it allows me the ability to sort. I can sort them from, lowest to highest, highest to lowest, but that might be a handy feature for kind of looking at your data in different ways. In this example, there are 3 students that are in an intervention, and I know that because they have this little green box next to their names under the INTV column, which stands for intervention. One last thing to cover is how to access and view forms. So back on a student's homepage, there's that black box with lots of information below their name. About halfway down, there's something called forms. And if I click on that, I can look at several different forms if they are created for this student. One of them is an EL form. So our EL teachers have been working really, really hard to make sure that all of those all the information about EL data and instructional plans are included in this EL form in eduCLIMBER. This year, we're starting to put 504 forms into eduCLIMBER. Counselors have been working really hard to do that as those annual 504 meetings have been happening. The advantage of having these forms is that teachers, once a student is rostered to you in PowerSchool, you'll be able to view this. So you'll be able to get this information in a much, much, much more quick way if you have students that are EL or have 504s. Same thing with PEPs. We're just beginning to start to use this, and our ELP teachers are very interested in getting PEP information in there. But again, that will take some time. And that's for our gifted and talented students. And then finally, another form that many of you may have seen or have started to use is this elementary data history form. This is a form that can be used or created to gather data for students, and in particular for those in the disability suspect process. Hopefully it's making data gathering a little easier, a little quicker. So once I've clicked on forms, it will take me to a screen that looks something like this. It says My Forms. If a student didn't have any forms here, this would be blank, and this is where we can create one by clicking New Form. But if a student has forms, as this student has many, we've created several test forms for this student just to kind of see how these look, all I have to do is double click on the form and I can view it. So for example, if I wanted to view this student data history form, I just click on that, double click on the name of the form, and it takes me to the actual form. I really like this feature up here that says print because it shows you a nice clean PDF of that form. And you can print this, you can save it if you'd like, or you can just view it and kind of take a look at what's in there. So in this case, we're looking at the student data collection form, student data history form. And so it's showing me, for example, all of the scores that we have for this particular student for this particular test in both a graph and a table. And by the table, they're color-coded to show the level of performance that student had. So As always, if you have any questions about the use of eduCLIMBER, please don't hesitate to reach out. My email address is listed there, as well as my phone number. But again, any suggestions for improving it or other things you'd like to see in it, please let me know. Thanks and have a great day.